Hello, and welcome to the Missionary Podcast. I'm your host, Elder Swaggerbrad, and as I'm sure you've noticed, I can't raise my voice today. It's because I've been put on vocal rest, and I've been put on vocal rest just in case I need to use my voice for something important in the future, and I don't want to overuse it now. And so I've saved all of my vocal energy for the Missionary Podcast, the only podcast dedicated to bringing you weekly missionary news. Pablo never ceases to amaze me. He has shown himself to be consistently a man of good character, even when the people doubt him and believe him to be of ill report. He still stands strong to his morals. And honestly, I think the best thing that Pablo is going to do is still far ahead of us. We've already seen him give bubbles to endangered elephants in China. We've seen him promote peanut butter production and release to people. And we've seen him start his own music production channel, which he has used to bring young, no-name artists up to the light and to share their music and their noise with the world. Truly, Pablo is a man among men. This week, as I was on Pablo's website, I was scrolling past the release of Goblin Gary's new rap single, Me Known Like Gnome, and the pictures of his recent peanut butter cannery that Pablo has just built, and I noticed something I hadn't expected to see. It's another very ambitious project that Pablo has been starting. It's his own version of the Olympics that is only run and done by anyone named Steve. All of the referees, competitors, and, in fact, all of the equipment used must be named Steve. Any entries not named Steve will be entirely rejected. Stevens, who go by the nickname of Steve, will also not be accepted. Only people, places, and things named Steve will be allowed in this version of the Olympics, run entirely by Pablo's servant, Steve, because Pablo himself will not be allowed to participate or engage in any of the festivities or activities because his name is not Steve. Although obviously he will be watching it from his home through his television, named Steve. His previous television was not named Steve, so he had to purchase a new television named Steve to be able to watch the Stevelympics. The Stevelympics will be held on the Steve of Stevewary and will be a monumental event. Pablo has already hired a team of 7 private investigators, all named Steve, to find the Steves of the world who can perform these functions. The project is expected to take approximately 2 months to complete, and on the final day of the completion of the project, they will have a 4-day festivity of the Stevelympics. Some of the main events of the Stevelympics will be Steve throwing, Steve catching, Steve rowing, and Steve towing. There also is another unknown event which has been mysteriously referred to only by its code name, Steve. Nobody knows what this mysterious event, referred to only as Steve, might be, although there are several people who have attempted to infiltrate the Stevelympics already. Some of them include Roberto, Ricardo, Eduardo, and Bob, none of whom you may notice are named Steve, so they have absolutely no business being in the Stevelympics, but they still have attempted to, regardless. In addition to the storied Stevelympics, other projects owned by Pablo have continued to flourish under his watchful eye and careful care. For example, the musical production program released many moons ago by Pablo, because of time travel, has caused the return of the ghost of Leonardo da Vinci to continue to share the music of his heart with people today. Apparently, Leonardo da Vinci, in addition to being a brilliant scientist, an excellent artist, is also an excellent country artist, a fact which would have been completely unknown by all modern historians without the efforts of Pablo to bring back this artist from the dust and have him bless our ears once again in the modern era. In a recent interview with Leonardo da Vinci, the Missionary Podcast was able to ascertain that really he was trying to make country music a thing way back then, but nobody understood what he was talking about with all of these trucks and catfish dinners and such. It was a very confusing time for a lot of people, Leonardo da Vinci said, and especially for me, as I knew so clearly what I was trying to express, but couldn't understand why no one was getting it. Today, though, Leonardo da Vinci has been able to release many songs, including Sally Ride, Little Old Church in a Small Western Town, and The Sound of Music. Unfortunately, because the music is produced from the reanimated ghost of Leonardo da Vinci, it is a little bit expensive to get the royalties for the entire song. But we did get permission to play a small clip of Leonardo da Vinci singing one of his classic country songs.
We're just a little old church in a small western town, but it's big enough for us all. We got a sign front and a field in the back, and the brick walls of the church stand tall.
Well, there you have it. Some people say that fine art is dead, and Leonardo da Vinci is in favor of that assumption, because even though he is dead, he is still very much producing fine art. Thank you, Leonardo, and thank you, Pablo, for allowing us to use that promotional clip of Leonardo's famous song. Thank you to everyone who helped bring this podcast together, and thank you especially to Barna Leo, the Black Pen, for writing the script for this episode. Today's quote is, "On the outside, he looks like a bear, but on the inside, he's a panda." Today's episode has been sponsored by nobody. No one at all has sponsored the Missionary Podcast. Eldest Swagabad will probably lose his cottage home he's recorded the Missionary Podcast in. He'll probably have to shovel snow off of the streets. And he'll probably have to get an actual job at this rate, which would be really unfortunate, but that's how life is. There's more fat in a stack of 10 Ritz crackers than in a gallon of 2% milk. Whoa.